Hello, I'm James. This is Blakeley. We're two balding men approaching middle age, I guess. I'm 34, that's pretty old now. So let's talk Star Trek.
I'm 40. I'm actually middle-aged officially. So
So,
yes.
why are we here, Blakeley? What the hell are we doing?
So to keep it as quickly as possible, I'm a big DS9 fan. I think it's the best Star Trek series. It's had a little bit of a renaissance with many people, like more people, accepting that recently. It finally came around to my way of thinking. It's very ahead of its time because of the serial storytelling, which isn't true in a lot of other Star Trek. And James and I were having a conversation, and he is currently halfway through series two.
Hmm.
And I've asked him to predict what he thinks is going to happen from this point on.
Yeah, so I'm a new Star Trek fan. I was too cool for it when I was growing up. So I've seen basically the last year. I've watched all of Next Generation. I've seen Next Generation films. I've seen Lower Decks. I've seen the Simon Pegg films. But that's basically it as far as my Star Trek knowledge goes. Other than the fact that I obviously know Star Trek things from broadly consuming culture and existing in the world. But I was
Yeah.
too cool to really pay attention. That's what I really want to emphasise. So let's kick things off. Come on, give me a thing and I will predict.
Right. Well, so what was the last episode you watched?
So the last one I watched was Paradise, which I think is about episode 10, 15, or of season 2, which is the one with the woman who has the planet where it's all anti-technology, and it turns out that she was a secret anti-technology ideologue enforcing this on people rather than it being unfortunate happenstance.
Yeah, it was effectively James O'Malley writes Star Trek. I thought you'd enjoy that one.
I thought it was
So
fucking brilliant.
yeah, it has actually. That's a genuinely good episode. So anyone who knows DS9 and people watching this, let's face it, the few hundred people who are going to watch this are going to be probably be Deep Space Nine fans. They know that the first series and a bit aren't the episodes aren't fantastic. There are some excellent episodes, duet, etc. But everyone knows from about now, many of the plot threads that last throughout the series start to emerge in Deep Space Nine.
This
So
is what
what?
he said. After I get through the first 40 hours, it then
Yeah.
finally starts to get good.
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is a little bit of a slog. Now we'll talk about sort of my experience with Deep Space Nine because I actually started midway through when I was, when it was going in the 90s. So I think the best way to do this is we'll go through the characters and you make some predictions about the characters. We'll do that as quickly as possible, and then we'll go through some of the major plot elements that have already emerged and see what you can predict from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is going to be fun because obviously everyone watching this will have watched DS9 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago, whenever the hell it was. So you're all going to be thinking, what rubbish am I talking? Or you're going to be thinking,
Yes.
I'm weirdly prescient. So hit me.
Yeah. So let's start off with the big dog, Ben Sisko, Benjamin Lafayette Sisko, currently Commander Sisko, I think, at your point, the
Oh,
commander of Deep Space Nine. And what do you think is going to happen to Benjamin?
okay. So my prediction is that they're going to eventually, by the end of the series, he's going to have some sort of romantic interest or something. That's clearly the plot is going to go. He's going to get over his dead wife, and there's going to be some sort of romantic interaction there. But I imagine they will milk the dead wife a bit more. They'll probably have her come back in. As a hologram or a robot or something Star Trekky, or maybe they will have a flashback episode. I bet. Here's what they'll do: they'll go back to the academy where he's in the academy and he meets his wife there, and they do like an entire flashback episode. That's my prediction.
Okay, quite interesting. I would probably avoid the phrase "milk the dead wife," um, but let's press on and pretend that was never said.
Yep.
So the next character down is Rene Auberjonois Odo. What do you think is going
Odo.
to happen to the grumpy constable?
Right, so Odo is obviously we're going to find out more about his origin. I reckon his origin is gonna reveal to be something to do with the wormhole, because it seems odd to have the wormhole and Odo is this completely it's odd to have Odo and this completely unexplained thing happening next to each other. Here's a really detailed prediction which I was just thinking of earlier today. So I reckon it's going to emerge that he's a shapeshifter because it's something to do with the same energy physics mumbo gumbo, which is why stuff can go through the wormhole. There's something to do with the way it translates objects from one place to another in the universe is going to be why he can also shapeshift. That is
Right.
my prediction.
It's fascinating. This isn't a spoiler, but what I will say is Odo's origins, and whether they're revealed or not, they didn't really have a plan for it where you are now. So it's quite fascinating that it's a blank slate from what you're up to. It's a blank slate. There is absolutely, they didn't have a sort of an origin in mind for him. So it'll be interesting to see whether your prediction becomes correct. Okay. Alexander Siddig's Julian Bashir, the chief medical officer.
Ooh, I never really thought about him. Let's think. So he's going to. So he's posh. He's young. He's going to inevitably get promoted. He'll be knocked down a peg or two by someone working class, hopefully. I don't know where he goes. I couldn't say there's that many defining characteristics about him. Where would he go? What would he do? I think he's going to die.
Okay.
I don't know. Because if I was in the writer's room thinking, what do we do with this character? I just really wouldn't know. Just kill him off.
Okay. Well, just an interesting tidbit. Alexander Siddig, Sid as he's known to the fan community, he was actually originally cast as Ben Sisko, and they decided to go with something a little bit older. Yeah.
Oh, correct decision.
But what I would say is, and this, I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but both the character and Alexander Siddig's acting, they get so much better towards. He's a very, very, very fine actor now. But in the first two series, not so much. In fact, I think you've recently just seen one of the first good O'Brien Bashir episodes.
Yes, I like that class dynamic, so I hope there's more of that.
Yes, yeah. It's quite fascinating. I wonder if he went to Space Eaton. That'd be a great flashback that they could have written. He's also anyway. So Terry Farrell's Jadzia Dax.
Right. So Dax is obviously going to regenerate at some point. Like, that would be stupid to have that power or that ability or that function of the character and not explore that. So presumably at some point the character will regenerate. I also think, because and also to be completely honest, I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I think I read that the actress left or something. Because after reading the Next Generation, watching Next Generation, I would go onto the Star Trek wiki because again I'm a very cool dude and read the notes, and sometimes it would mention DS9 things, so I think I might have picked it up from there. But my tangential prediction to that would be we'll also get another flashback episode where we see her previous form and Sisko being friends in a previous life.
Yeah. So it's already been established that Curzon and Curzon Dax, her previous host, was Sisko's mentor. That's already been sort of established. Yeah.
And I think we'll get another episode, so we'll get a flashback to Sisko and Curzon being friends, but we'll get another episode where this new character will turn up, nobody will know who it is, and it'll be a time-travelling, even earlier incarnation of that person. Is it Dax? Is that the consistent name, or is it other bit the consistent name?
Dax is the consistent name.
We'll get an even earlier iteration of Dax, but nobody knows who it is, they're causing loads of trouble. And then they'll have a meeting with the current day version, and it'll all kick off, and in a Star Trek way.
Completely useless tidbit as well. Bill Bailey named his son Dax after the character. So Bill Bailey, British comedian, who I guess in America is probably less popular than Deep Space Nine. Sirok or Kirok, I never knew how to pronounce his name. Lofton, Jake Sisko, the youth character on the show.
Okay, Jake Sisko, let's think. He's going to grow up, and there's going to be a whole tension with his father. So listen, so DS9 lasted, 7 seasons? And I've watched 2 seasons, and he must be like 14, 15 when the season I'm watching? So,
yeah. He's quite young,
so
yes.
He's going to obviously age, and they're going to do some sort of tension. He's going to fall out with his dad in a really big way. Because it's a teenager, that's what you do. That'll be where you go with that.
Here's a really good question about Jake. What career do you think he will start going into? Because basically he's going to be, this isn't a spoiler, this is just how time works and aging. He's going to be in his early 20s by the end of the series, so he would have to. So what career do you think he's going into? This is
okay. Here's how. I don't know if this is a prediction, but this is what I do, right? Because he's friends with Nog, and this is my Nog prediction as well. So I think they're going to swap. So Jake is going to become the ultra capitalist businessman, and Nog is going to become a little Starfleet kid.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, let's move on to Nog then.
Okay.
So I think you've made a prediction there. So anything else about? Let's go into the Ferengi actually. So we'll start with young Nog, who is not a huge character at the moment. Nog, Quark's nephew, Rom's son, played by the recently departed Aaron Eisenberg. What do you think is going to happen with the young Ferengi?
I think. Well, I did just predicted that he would go into Starfleet and try and do that, and I think that would cause interesting tension with Quark. But my other prediction, and this doesn't really fit with the other one, so I think this is another possibility for the character, is I reckon the final episode, when you resolve Quark's story, probably not as the final scene because he's not the main guy, but as earlier in the episode, it'll be him, working in the bar, doing something like taking after his capitalist father or his capitalist uncle and making him proud, a bit like at the end of King of the Hill with Bobby Hill and Hank Hill finding sort of commonalities. Okay,
quite fascinating. I'm getting really, really excited to see what you think. So the other Armin Shimmerman's Quark. What do you think is going to happen with the Ferengi, the proprietor of Quarks on Deep Space Nine?
So I was thinking about this. So my prediction for his brother, whose name escapes me, with the thing on the back of his head, I reckon he's going to get the bar by the end of it, because that's sort of his character arc, because he's always the underdog, and he's going to become the alpha dog of the bar by the end of the episode, by the end of the final episode. But I think that will be because Quark becomes the sort of Ferengi spiritual leader who was in an earlier episode that I watched.
Oh god, I'm such a nerd.
The Nagus.
The Grand Nagus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's going to get that title back, and then that will give him some sort of finale. Oh, and that's it. And so Quark's story and character arc will end by him as Nagus adding a rule of acquisition, which is like a nice one, which is like be nice to people or treat people or humanoids over the acquisition of money, and it's going to sort of resolve his character arc in that way. Right,
James. I'm not going to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Except to say that is my favourite prediction of yours, and I can't wait. That is fascinating. Everything you just said, but I'm not going to spoil anything. That is going to be I'm going to have such good fun watching those, the last few episodes with you. Sorry, this is way more fun than I was expecting it to be. Okay, so going back, we're nearly there. And Nana visitors Kira Nerys, our Bajoran former religious terrorist who possibly wouldn't have ever been written if the show had been broadcast 10 years later.
Okay, so I reckon what's going to happen to her is this is going to be wrapped up in the whole Bajor thing. So my theory is that by the end of the series, obviously, last episode or something is going to be Bajor joining the Federation. The sort of occupation and administration of the Federation is over for whatever reason. Bajor is invited to join, and she becomes like Prime Minister of Bajor or President of Bajor or something like that, or just commander of the station maybe, or just there was some sort of more senior, because obviously you see the character go, she grows into that and represents Bajor as it becomes a member of the Federation. I'm trying to think, is there any other aspects of her character? There'll be an episode where she has a crisis of faith over her big religious beliefs, and then by the end of it sort of gets them back, but it'll be in a sort of half-hearted, oh, isn't it nice that it makes people feel okay sort of way, rather than a genuine religious belief.
Okay, that's interesting. Don't know. Yeah, no. There's a really, again, I can't wait to come back to this. Yeah. There's a really interesting response to that, but I will come back to it. So, that's the main cast and a couple of supporting cast so far, and I'm just there's two other characters I think we should mention.
Yep.
And again, these are very, very mild spoilers, but. You probably already predicted this, but both I know the two main Cardassian characters, Dukat and Garak, become way more important down the line, to the point where they're not officially main cast, but they almost are effectively. So Ducat, the former, used to work in Ben's current office. What do you think is going to happen with Ducat?
Oh Christ! So he's not the guy who owns the shop or owns the
No,
clothes shop.
Ducat is the Cardassian military officer. I'm trying to think what you would have seen him in. He was the former prefect of Bajor.
So he is going to become the equivalent of the premier of the Soviet Union. He's going to be the big antagonist like that. And there's going to be loads of sort of Cold War-esque things. I know that the Cardassians are supposed to be like a Soviet Union type thing. So we're going to have a Cuban Missile Crisis episode. We're going to have a prisoner exchange walking across a bridge with your hands behind your head sort of episode like that. There's going to be a bit where they smuggle Beatles records into Cardassian space. I don't know. Yeah, I suspect that's. I can't think about I genuinely can't remember the face of the character. So
yeah. Okay. What's really fascinating about that then is how important that character becomes, because but he isn't halfway through series 2. And finally, I think you know his name. Yes, you do. Elim Garak. That's his first name. That is exposed. I think that's. Maybe I've actually just added a spoiler. I might have spoiled it.
Anyway, yeah. I think he's gonna just have a lovely. He's gonna decry spying and just have a lovely business running a clothes shop or whatever it is on the station. And he's going to eventually move in with his partner, the doctor guy, who's a completely unremarkable character otherwise, and they're just going to have a nice life together, just doing non-political, non-spacefaring things. No, I think, I know he becomes more significant. Him being a spy is going to become a big deal, and it's going to be like it's going to be an analogy to a Cold War spy defection. He's going to defect. That's what he's going to do. He's going to, for ages. There's going to be a long-running series of plots about like him doing spy stuff and pissing off everyone at the station by spying, and they can't kick him out because he's got like the diplomatic protection or whatever. But then he's going to defect in like season 7, episode 14 or something. When you've still got a bit of a run towards the end, but not quite the end, he's going to say he wants to defect, and that's going to set up the final arc of the final set of episodes.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I'm trying to keep a poker face. So, and what we'll do now is we'll see how much you go into it, but we'll talk about some of the plot threads that have emerged. So, season 1, especially the 3-part episode that spanned 1 and 2. What do you think is going to happen with Bajor? It's pronounced about 15 different ways throughout the entire series.
So by the end of it, I think Bajor will join the Federation. In between them, we're going to see loads of analogies and parallels with real things. So it's basically Israel-Palestine, isn't it? So we're going to be a bit where they want to build a Cardassian settlement, but the Bajorans aren't very happy about it. We're going to see a bit where there's going to be a Yasser Arafat type Bajoran figure who is controversial in his own way for his own methods, but is seen as this uniting figure and this unifying figure for the Bajoran people. We're going to see a really complex election to the Cardassian Knesset, where they have about 50 different parties in coalition together. I'm struggling a bit here.
It's going to be a Nick Clegg character. I think then that's one of the and Cardassia, which is obviously the big one of the other big sort of players in the series. What do you think is going to happen to the Cardassian Union, or broadly the Cardassian people, etc.?
So I think at the end of the series, it won't be like a full democracy or anything, but I think you'll see the sort of stirrings of a 1989 type situation. I think it'll hint towards, we can have peace with Cardassia now, and Bajor can join the Federation, and everyone's cheery because of this sort of the glasnost and perestroika that's been going on in Cardassia because of the guy who owns the clothes shop becoming important and wanting to reform Cardassia. That is my guess. But again, I don't think by the end of the series it will be like full on like liberal democracy, but I think it will be aiming in that direction.
Okay. Going to be fascinating. And finally, I guess a more broader question. There are elements that will come in that you will be aware of from the Next Generation, certain plot threads that come in. So, yeah, is there anything else that you can think of that might impact the sort of main story arc of Deep Space Nine?
Oh, I know what you're alluding to. Unfortunately, I know this. Worf turns up, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, of course, Worf Torn. Oh, yeah.
And the reason I know that is because, well, I read about it on Wikipedia, but also there's that Star Trek film where, for some reason, it's just like, oh, Worf happens to be flying by in his spaceship separately. And coincidentally, he can just jump back onto the bridge and replace the guy doing his job now, doing his old thing again for no reason. I don't know
Of
how
course.
that
So yeah, that's first contact. Yeah. They had a better excuse for him being there than the later films, which is just like, oh look, it's Worf. Yeah, he's on holiday from Deep Space Nine. Yeah. So yeah, Worf. Anyone want to make some predictions for Worf on Deep Space Nine? Because obviously the last time you would have seen Worf was Generations. So the Enterprise has been destroyed, which is
so he'll
freeze
be
him up.
newly divorced from what's her name from fucking TNG?
Deanna Troy.
Yeah, he'll be newly divorced from Troy. No, he will. He'll be. What was his character arc on TNG? Thinking about it, other than he was not a merry man. That's my main memory.
He was not. He was not a merry man, and he played a role in with the Klingon Civil War. Gowron coming to power, so Gowron basically his position. And
that's it. I've got it. He, because of his role mediating between the Federation and the Klingons, he's going to be the Tony Blair type Middle East peace process negotiator, going in to negotiate between the Cardassians and the Federation. That is my guess. He's the Tony Blair of Deep Space Nine.
He's the Tony Blair of Deep Space Nine. Yep. That's wait, no. I'm going to put that in.
He's got the same sort of hairline.
He has got the same sort of hairline, and he really enjoys war. Okay.
I think. Are we done?
Yeah, no, I think that's basically it. Because I will say there's some major stuff, plot elements coming up that it will be. I think it will be fascinating to have a brief chat about this. Maybe in like at the end of series 3, just like a little 3-5 minute addendum, and then maybe we meet back up 2 series later, just to see because some of your predictions might or might not come true by that point, but also you might completely change your mind on some of your predictions.
Excellent. We'll check back in then, and I'm looking forward to looking back at this, because not only will I be looking back, I'll probably have lost all my hair by the time I finish this series, so it'll be fun to see myself with hair again. So yeah, let's check back and see how my predictions do, and if I've got any of these predictions even vaguely right or completely hilariously wrong, let me know in the comments, because that's what you do on YouTube, and I'm sure wading in on Star Trek at this point is not going to cause me any grief whatsoever.
Yeah, and look, there aren't a lot of Star Trek videos on YouTube at the moment, so I think
this is a guaranteed we found our exclusive niche. No one else is touching this. So.
Exclusive niche. There are not enough beardy white men talking about Star Trek on YouTube, and I think this is a very original approach.
Excellent.
So this is going to be a huge success. I can envision it now.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you for watching. Just people who look like us everywhere, all over the world.